it! It's time for another Heroes of the Storm video! I don't believe it! Another Heroes of the Storm video! Oh, and this time it's about the Vikings! Oh! Yes, as our Viking friends finally put it, it's time for another Heroes of the Storm video, and this time round we're looking at the heroes called the Lost Vikings. This is going to be a gameplay guide, supported by some gameplay footage and commentary. Now, if you're unaware, Heroes of the Storm is made by a games company called Blizzard Entertainment. All the heroes or characters that you can play in this game come from various games that Blizzard have made in the past. The Lost Vikings come from a game called The Lost Vikings, funnily enough, and it was one of the first games that Blizzard ever made. I've got a bit of nostalgia for The Lost Vikings as I used to own the game on the Sega Mega Drive back when it was released in 1992. That was one of the reasons I really wanted to learn to play them and play them well. The original Lost Viking games were the platforming style game, much like the Trine PC game series if you're familiar with that. I've been playing a lot of games with the Vikings recently to try to get the Master Skin. I've played a good 100 games with them at least. For the Vikings, the Master Skin is this cool kind of cybernetic looking attachments which I think look quite cool. Actually a reference to the second Lost Vikings game. Before getting into the gameplay, I just want to cover some key points about the Vikings which I think are important to note. So the Vikings are really unique to the game in that they're actually three heroes in one. And because of that, their real strength lies in being able to control them separately, and for them to have a presence on the three lanes that the majority of maps in Heroes of the Storms have, so that they can soak the experience points from the minion kills from each of those three lanes. There's no other hero in the game that can do that, so this is the real strength for the Vikings and should really be their priority whenever you go into a game with them, to maximise that experience. Additionally, the Vikings have their own strengths and weaknesses. Individually, they're not as strong and they are more vulnerable than other heroes, but what they lack they make up for in interesting ways. Let's take a quick look at the Vikings to get familiar with them. The Vikings consist of Olaf the Stout, Balog the Fierce, and Eric the Swift. Olaf can be considered the tank of the group. He's got the most health points, and he's got this massive shield to boot, so it's understandable that he can block a lot of damage. Balog can be considered the damage dealer of the group, and he attacks by throwing great big swords at his enemies, and he never seems to run out of them. He's a bit like Hawkeye from the Avengers in that respect, seemingly never running out of arrows. Where they get all this ammo from we don't ask, they just look cool doing it. An important point to note with Balog is that his attacks have a splash damage effect, so any enemies behind his main target will get hit with splash damage. Whenever you're attacking with him, it's useful to consider that in his positioning to keep enemies behind the main target of his attacks. And Eric the Swift, as his name suggests, is the fastest of the three Vikings. He can use that mobility to escape from combat or indeed catch up with enemies to try to get those last few shots on them to get the kill. Eric attacks with a little slingshot, like Bart Simpson in the cartoons, so it's understandable that that doesn't do as much damage as Balog and his swords, but sometimes it is enough to get that kill. One of Olaf's traits is that he can heal his health very quickly, as long as he hasn't received damage within the last 5 seconds. This is really handy when you're laning with Olaf, so that when he does take damage, you simply need to move him out of combat for a short enough time to be able to replenish his health, then he can get back into combat and keep soaking that vital experience. Eric has a similar effect later in the game when he has the level 4 talent called Eric the Swift, which allows him to heal health rapidly as long as he's moving. So that keeps him very active in lanes. Balog's the only Viking that doesn't have that similar kind of regenerative ability, but although there is an option to pick sort of a heal on basic attack, but that's at the expense of another vital talent, so I don't usually pick that one. As a result, I try to be more careful with Balog in lane, and when he does get damaged, send him back to base for healing, to get him back into the lane as quickly as possible. Before I head into the game, let's just have a quick look at the talents that I choose for the Vikings in most games. For level 1 I pick Viking Bribery because of its close affinity to the Viking playstyle, and it adds extra benefit and worth to soaking experience in lane so that the mercenary camps are easier to catch them for your team. For level 4 I go for Eric the Swift because of the survivability it adds to Eric. It's able to keep him in lane for longer, and therefore soaking experience better, and therefore getting mercenary camps quicker. It's all about making the most value out of your talent choices with any heroes. It's no different for the Vikings. So for level 7 I collect a Spin to Win. This adds an AoE attack to the Vikings, and it's assigned to the Q action key by default. This is fantastic for laning to help clear enemy minions a bit faster. Also, it's useful as an additional bit of damage whenever you're trying to get that last hit on an enemy hero to get an enemy hero kill. So for level 10, the heroic ability of the Vikings, I have been flip-flopping between the two options on which one's the best, but currently I'm really favouring Longboat Raid on a majority of maps. I find that Play Again is better suited on quite large maps, but Longboat Raid really plays to the strengths of a player that can keep Vikings alive well in a game, and it's just sort of unrivaled in team battles. Although there are definitely strengths using Play Again in team fights, I still favour Longboat Raid, and in addition the unstoppable effect that you get by using it further adds to the Vikings' survivability. So I definitely think Longboat Raid's the better option for now. For level 13 I choose Jump. This is an ability which allows the Vikings to be invulnerable for 1.5 seconds. Really handy to increase the survivability of the Vikings. For 16, Larger in Charge. This could very well be the best talent out of all the selections in its value, in that it adds a stun to Olaf's charge that he does. The stun effect is on the same cooldown as the charge, which is 8 seconds. The stun effects in Heroes of the Storm, the value can't be emphasised enough. You can really notice that the benefit of having Vikings in team fights goes up exponentially once this stun ability is available, and it's so handy for appealing for allies, interrupting channel abilities of enemies. It's generally very frustrating for the enemy to deal with. And then finally for level 20 I go for Ragnarok and Roll, which is an upgrade to the Longboat Raid heroic. It allows the longboat to attack 2 targets at once, and it's fantastic. Once you hit level 20 basically, team fights should very heavily go in your favour, and there are very few team compositions that I feel that can beat a team with the Vikings using this ability. I love it every time I get to that point in the game. I feel pretty confident about a win from then on. So there we go. Let's now we've covered the talents and had a bit of an overview of the heroes. Let's get into the game, shall we?
Prepare yourself for battle, hero.
So here we are loaded into the map. The map is Cursed Hollow, and it's a quick match game. And I'm playing the Lost Vikings together with a team of Li Ming, Linara, Illidan and Kael'thas, and we're playing against a team of Illidan, Thrall, Gazlo, Nova and Li Ming. Now that we're moved into the game, I've already begun work splitting the Vikings. So I've sent Olaf to the top lane, Balog to the middle lane and Eric to the bottom.
Let the battle begin.
I've kept the replay on my point of view, so you can see what I'm looking at throughout the course of the game. And I hope this is going to be viewable. It's going to be a lot of jumping around as I jump from... Over the course of the game I will jump from Viking to Viking quite a lot to do micromanage them. But as I said, I think it's useful to see what I'm looking at and to perhaps, support your play style when you come to play the Vikings. So what I'm doing now that the game has started and the minions have started marching into the lanes, I'm moving in the Vikings into a position where they're close enough to the minions to get experience from the kills, but not so far that they're in a dangerous position to get picked off by enemy heroes. So I'm just looking to keep them in a safe position while being able to soak experience. And that's the key to really playing the Vikings well. As long as you can really maintain that over the course of the game, then you're laughing. You're in a very good position and you're going to be bringing a lot of benefit to the team. The challenge is actually being able to do that consistently. So with Olaf here, I'm trying to support Illidan in thwarting their enemy Illidan. Unfortunately I died there, but we'll soon be back in the fight. One good thing with the Vikings is when they do die, you can immediately set a waypoint for them for when they respawn, so they'll immediately head to where you want them. Olaf isn't so strong in combat until much later in the game. As I mentioned before, once he gets to level 16 talent, he gets a stun effect, which is really beneficial. And the level 7 talent Spin to Win does add a bit additional damage to his attacks, which helps with laning minions. But before then, there's really little that Olaf can do in helping with fighting. Best he can do is try to deflect a bit of damage from allies, if possible. But otherwise, his main role is to just really soak the experience from the minions. So here's the first tribute of the game. On the map Curse Hollow, both teams battle to try to get the tributes when they pop up. And the first team to reach 3, not necessarily in a row, but the first team to reach 3 tributes will be able to curse the other team, which means that the friendly minions will no longer attack, or rather they die to one hit, and the friendly team buildings don't attack anymore. So I intentionally didn't help to capture that first tribute, and I won't be helping to capture tributes until we've reached at least level 10 in the game. That's intentional because firstly, the Vikings are not that strong in a team fight early on anyway to be of much use, and secondly, probably most importantly, it is the laning and soaking experience from laning that is the priority for me.
The choice is simple.
And I think that's a fair point on most maps, really, to prioritise the soaking over any other objectives until you at least reach level 10, when the Vikings can be a bit more of use in a team fight. So we're having a bit of success in the bottom lane. We've already got one tower down. Top lane's pushing along nicely with the Merc camps, which were captured using Viking bribery. And I'm just trying to push as much as I can while the allies, while the teammates are attempting to capture the second tribute. So when Li Ming came along there, I tried to get Balog into position where he kept the friendly team minions between him and Li Ming, which is always a good tactic to try to avoid her attacks, but I think Illidan it was that came along and ruined the fun and managed to catch him. Balog's quite far forward though, so it's always going to be a risk having him that far forward. So here, where with Illidan along, there's no way that I can fight Illidan, so I'm just keeping Olaf in the close enough range to the minion fights to try to soak that damage. As long as Illidan lets me be there, as soon as he started attacking me, I had to really go back behind the safety of the gates, but now back in the lane again to soak that experience. So now our team's been cursed, and the priority is to just try to minimise the amount of damage as much as possible as we push to try to get level 10.
Hatred of 10,000 years!
So there I just used the Spin to Win ability with Eric to try to do a bit more damage to these minions. unfortunately it's not enough to stop us losing one of the towers. So now we've reached that level 10 level. We're still a bit behind the enemy team, but I'm hoping that we'll be able to make this up now that our team fights are a bit stronger, and now that I'll be able to help out in team fights for the tributes. Nice little duke there from Balog to avoid the heroic from Nova, which I was quite proud of, and Olaf capturing the top merc camps using Viking bribery again. So doing some nice pushing on the bottom lane. Unfortunately, Thrall and Leeming came along to ruin our fun. Not much I could do to save Lunara there, so just opted to get out of the way with Eric. This is another good thing about the Vikings when they're pushing. It can make the enemy team need to react to, especially on big maps like this, it can make the enemy team need to react to the Vikings to try to stop their push. In this case, all 4 of them went down to try to stop it. So here the enemy team are pushing our merc camp. I've signalled to the team about it, and I've been able to finally use the heroic longbow raid to thwart them, and after a lot of messy heroic abilities being thrown everywhere, we came up on top quite well there. Got quite a few hero kills and managed to secure the mercenary camp to boot. But as I was saying before about the enemy team needing to react to the pushing of the Vikings, that's another strength of them, and any kind of reaction that they need to do to you pulls them away from other key objectives and other lanes and allows your teammates to push too. So they are fantastic for that, drawing enemies away from where they want to be on the map. So here we are, starting the comeback. We've got our first tribute, hopefully the first of many. And I'm just trying to maintain the pushing as best as I can. I got a bit cheeky here with Leeming. Her skill shots are quite easy to dodge, but not when she blinks right into you like that. I also found at this point in the game it was difficult to keep laning as much as I wanted to. I felt like, with the exception of Eric, pushing any more forward with the other Vikings was proving to be a bit difficult, as I couldn't get them back to safety in quick enough time, as you saw with Olaf in the top lane just then. And that was also another part of the reason why I sort of made the decision that soaking the lanes wasn't really working as well as I'd like, and that there was more value to bringing the Vikings together and fighting in team fights. One of the downsides about the Viking raid ability is the fact that they need all the Vikings that are alive need to all be together in order to activate the ability. So you're actually forced to bring them together, therefore not being able to soak lanes as much as you'd like. This was a really fantastic team fight to help get us back into the game.
Excellent. Consider your flame extinguished.
Warrior refuse our aid.
And we managed to kill all 5 of the enemy team over the course of that fight, which is fantastic. Another great bit of the Vikings is the during the longboat raid they become unstoppable. So you might have noticed Gazlo's ult there. Normally it draws all the enemies caught within it into the centre of the circle, but because the Viking longboat is unstoppable, they're able to dodge that quite neatly and are unaffected by it, other than the damage part of it, obviously. And thanks to us being able to kill all the enemies, we've managed to capture our own boss, which is fantastic to help with the siege potential pushing in the bottom lane. Here we've got another fight for a tribute in the bottom. Unfortunately, the longboat raider heroic was still on cooldown. I was only able to activate it just now. So we're trying to push and get as much value out of it as we can. For some reason the thrall kept waiting in those bushes. Obviously thought that he wasn't visible within them, but I think thanks to perhaps some damage over time ability that he had on him, we were still able to see him, or perhaps he was still attacking us in some way. This is why he remained visible. So here, just really trying to disrupt the enemy team, taking the bottom tribute as long as we can without dying too much. Unfortunately, Olaf died there, but trying to keep Baylog in the vicinity with Eric following up. And we do actually manage to pick off the Gazlo. So this was an annoying battle. I really thought we had enough to kill off. Well, we clearly did have enough to kill the enemy Illidan there, but I moved away a bit too soon, so unfortunately didn't get the kill that we wanted. So a quick look at the scoreboard there. We're still a level behind. Enemy team actually have 26 kills versus our 16, which is a big difference. I don't know if that's because the individual Viking deaths are counted. So luckily able to save the ally Li Ming there, thanks to the stun ability from Olaf and following up with the longboat raid to deal enough damage to kill Illidan. So here I'm just trying to get in to try to stun either Li Ming or Nova, but it was a bad engage. Unfortunately lost both Eric and Olaf in the battle, but so we're doing a hasty retreat. One thing to note actually, when you're playing against Li Ming as the Vikings, I've heard players previously say that Vikings are a bad choice in current meta, what with all the kind of burst heroes there are available, but it's really just about knowing how the heroes are used, and in the case of Li Ming, a real benefit is when you're playing versus a Li Ming player is to just get in close to Li Ming and sort of minimise that big damage that she gets from her orb ability. Sometimes Li Mings will come to charge in next to you and expecting you to run away, and just by the mere fact of staying close to her and attacking her, it can really throw the player and sometimes be enough to pick off a kill yourself. So here we are cursed again. Whenever we're cursed, priority is to try to minimise as much damage against us as possible, but there is this team fight going on in the middle, and it does seem like we might be able to pick off a kill on Thrall, but there wasn't enough. You'll notice there that the enemy Nova was just about to kill our Olaf, but Longbow Raid is good in addition to escape, last minute kills, to be used as an escape from kills, as once that Longbow Raid is activated, the health pools sort of combine, or you get a new health pool rather, so you can escape death, at least for a short time. So the enemy with him being really ballsy there and doing this big YOLO charge into base, so he just cleaned him up. He did pick off our lead though, so I guess it was a 1-for-1.
I hope you made the most of it.
Don't know if that's worth it though. So we've now got another fight going on here to our boss.
You hunted the wrong game.
So here's an example where I was trying to stay a bit closer to Li Ming, and I think if it wasn't for that thrall attacking us in the bottom, we might have had a bit more success against her.
Let's retreat.
So chasing down Thrall now, stunning him with the Olaf stun, and that allows Li Ming to get that extra bit of damage off on him for the kill. Now we're activating Longboat Raid, again escaping Gazlo's heroic ability, which I forget the name of, I'm sorry. I don't often play Gazlo. I just sort of know that ability is that ability. That does a big ton of AoE and sucks people in. So because of that favourable team fight, we can now safely take our boss, which we're doing now. And at this point in the game, it really firmly felt like we were in the lead. And another great little stun there from Olaf on the enemy Nova.
Retreat.
It's just so handy being able to stun enemies so often, and it's a charge to boot, so it's just so helpful to be able to, when wanting to chase down enemies or disrupt enemies in a team fight, to just charge in and get to where it needs to be and stun the enemies where it hurts.
Your enemy shall fall.
So now I'm using Olaf to take the tower on the bottom. I was thinking about maybe just going for that siege camp, which probably could have taken while they were busy defending against the boss marching in the bottom lane. But in the end, thought better of it, and instead bringing all the Vikings together again to help with the top boss. A little tip when taking mercenary camps with the Vikings, if you don't have Viking bribery available, always try to get either Eric or Olaf tanking the damage, rather than Balog, if you're using the same build as mine, talent build as mine, that is. Reason for that being that if Balog gets damaged, he's not going to be able to replenish his health that quickly at all, whereas Olaf and Eric can always replenish their health quite quickly. There was doing a bit of a mana twirl of a Viking longboat, really just rubbing salt in the wound against the enemies. And it's always fun to do when you're playing the Vikings. I always just get the feeling when you play them that the enemies are somehow just underestimating them, and it's just fun to really wreck them and make them realise that actually they're not that bad at all. So here we are pushing the middle lane. the enemy boss that we captured recently is marching along the top lane, and even the bottom lane is sort of pushing along slowly, so we're really just piling on the pressure now on the enemy and trying to stretch them as much as possible to cover on those three fronts. Healer's in with the charge in there. Lost Olaf. I think I was getting a bit cheeky or a bit over confident, so just pulling back a bit now just to ensure I don't lose the last two Vikings. Just laying down a bit of damage where I can. And here we are now, just pushing on the enemy core and pushing for the win. So all in all, I'm really happy with performance in this game, and
Is there any question?
had a really good team. But the teams did feel fair, and there was definitely a time early on in the game where the enemy team felt like the enemy team was on top. But once we were able to get together on our team fights, we seemed to be able to turn the tide. And in terms of what I could have maybe done better, perhaps there were opportunities to be laning a bit more that I could have exploited, and perhaps early on in the game I could have done a bit better with keeping the Vikings alive, preventing a few deaths here and there. But ending the game on 6.5 deaths isn't too bad. Got an okay XP contribution to the team, which is the main goal. And yeah, other than that, I mean, I think just working on the awareness is the way of improving the play in the Vikings there, and just reacting a bit quicker to dangers and opportunities to get enemy hero kills would be what I do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and the discussion about all the talents and stuff, and if you watched this far, thanks very much, and I hope to see you in the next video where we'll look at another hero. Thanks.